Welcome to the Genealogy Gems podcast, providing quick and innovative ways to make the absolute most out of your research time and creative ideas for sharing and displaying your family history. I'm your host, Lisa Louise Cook. Hello and welcome to episode 53 of the Genealogy Gems podcast. I'm recording this in October of 2008, and it's Family History Month, a perfect time to be listening to the show and renewing your commitment to researching your family. And it's getting to be Halloween time. I just love seeing all the decorations going up around the neighborhood. The kids are all getting excited about costumes and carving pumpkins. Now, I'm a big pumpkin carver from way back. I think that's why I eventually took up cake decorating, because you can't carve pumpkins year-round. Although I often did get a hold of a watermelon in the summertime when I was a kid, which wasn't exactly what my mom had in mind for them. But in fact, I entered my first pumpkin carving contest in the 4th grade. And gosh, if I can find that old photo, I'm going to post it up on the show notes. What's better than squishing your fingers around inside the guts of a big old pumpkin? It's one of the few times as a kid that we have permission to get really good and messy. You gotta love it. So it's no surprise that I had to create a Genealogy Gems carved pumpkin, and I will have a link to my little Halloween greetings video featuring my Genealogy Gems pumpkin in the show notes for this episode. And speaking of Halloween, we can't let it pass by without finding out a little more about the history of the holiday. So I will have a link to the Halloween Haunts podcast by WHRO FM radio. Yes, there are actually podcasts out there about Halloween. Halloween Haunts are stories based on ghostly legends and lore of Hampton Roads, Virginia. Here's a sample of Halloween Haunts. It's called Digging Up Bones.
Welcome to WHRO 90.3 and WHRV 89.5's podcast of Halloween Haunts, a series of historical hauntings in Virginia. Happy haunting! Join me as I tell you a tale, a story of how one graveyard caretaker believed in burying the dead in a strange manner, and how on his deathbed he changed his own name to fit in. Welcome, I'm Michelle Gabriele-Harrell, and this is a Halloween haunt. The Antioch Baptist Graveyard near the Bedford area is where the tombstones are arranged in alphabetical order. The owner and caretaker had a compelling inclination to keep everyone in strict order from A to Z, even if it continually meant that he had to reshuffle the graves in sequence to accomplish it. The caretaker would have plot owners sign papers in advance, giving him permission to unearth and rearrange their loved ones. Family members didn't seem to mind signing the consent because it enabled them to find their loved ones without having to wander all over the cemetery. In 1992, when the caretaker himself was near death, he had a startling realization. Since his name started with a double A, he realized to maintain his alphabetizing of the tombstones, all of the graves would have to be moved. But he was too weak to accomplish this great feat. The caretaker frantically advertised in the local paper recruiting help, but no one came forth. So in order to prevent the chaos that would occur when he died, the man had his name legally changed to Thomas Zuckerman. When you visit the Antioch Baptist Cemetery, on the very last row you will find a monument to Thomas Zuckerman. The inscription reads, "Death comes to us all, but great achievements build a monument which shall endure until the sun grows cold." If you enjoyed this particular haunt or want to hear more in the series, then simply go to our main website, whrv.org. Click on the pumpkin icon, if you dare. Happy haunting!
Thanks to my friend Michelle Gabriele-Harrell, producer of the Halloween Haunts podcast and series. You can find the Halloween Haunts audio podcast in iTunes and at halloweenhaunts.org along with the video podcast. They also have a PBS TV show that airs in the Norfolk, Virginia area, if you happen to live over there, and that will debut on October 30th at 10 p.m. Now, let's see what else is new this week. Well, now, if you're an iGoogle user and you know that I'm a fan of iGoogle, then I want to make sure that you get a chance to read my October 16th, 2008 blog post on my Genealogy Gems News Blog about the new iGoogle that has just launched this week in the United States. I outlined for you the changes that they've made. Gosh, when I first saw it, I felt like I was going to have to stand on my head to make sense of it, but you get used to it pretty quick. It's a little overwhelming because it does show so much more, but I'm pretty optimistic that it's going to be a really good thing in the long run. I've actually produced a 7-part video series walking you step by step on the computer screen on how to set up iGoogle and get to its full potential. And it's just one of the things that you will get if you become a Genealogy Gems Premium Member. And speaking of Google, on November 14th and 15th, I will be at the Family History Expo at the Mesa Conference Center in Mesa, Arizona. I'm going to be there teaching my 2-part class, Google, a gold mine of genealogy gems, and I'll have the Genealogy Gems podcast booth in the exhibit hall, so I hope that if you're in the area, you're going to come on by and say hi. Now, the great thing with the Family History Expos is there's no cost for attending the keynote address or for visiting the exhibit hall. And to attend classes, pre-registration is just $75 through November 1st for the 2-day event. After November 1st, registration at the door will be $90 for both days. And a cost for one day is $50 at the door if you just want to attend one day of classes. So go to FamilyHistoryExpo.com for more information. I also wrote a blog recently called Getting the Most Out of WorldCat, and I wanted to mention it here because there's going to be a free seminar October 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, online, sponsored by WorldCat. So I will have a link to that posting so that you can read all about it and get registered for the seminar if you'd like to. And now, believe it or not, an old dog can learn new tricks. And I'm that old dog. I just discovered that the media player on the show notes page for the Genealogy Gems podcast can indeed play all the episodes. Oh my gosh, I have been telling you guys for ages that it only plays the most current episode. Wrong. You know, I was just testing the player the other day to make sure that the last episode that I published was okay, and I accidentally clicked the button that looks like a right arrow pointing at a vertical line. Now, I always assumed that this would just kind of like fast forward you, but actually it jumps you to the next episode. And so that means that the other button, which I thought was rewind, the arrow pointing left at a vertical line on the player takes you to the previous episode. How cool is that? Now you guys are going to listen to me even when I make goofy mistakes like this, right? Well, anyway, I know that most of you subscribe for free and download the episodes, but in case you ever want to listen to them on the media player, yes, you can select from any of the episodes on the media player. So enjoy. Now it is time to head to the mailbox. I want to welcome new listener, Carrie Stewart, who recently left me this message regarding one of my episodes, Genealogy Gems episode number 40.
Hi, my name is Carrie. I recently found the Genealogy Gems podcast. I really enjoy listening to you. I just listened to episode number 40. You talked about your inherited traits. I laughed out loud when you talked about Ellen and James Lynch having 16 children. You said that either they were mathematically incompetent or Ellen didn't know how to say no. I really got a kick out of that. It made me want to share some information about my family. My great-great-grandma, Henrietta Prusner Tash, had 15 children. One of her daughters, Catherine Tash Rugg, had 18 children. One of Catherine's sons, my grandpa, Dave Rugg, had 10 children. When Henrietta Tash was 88 years old, she had 228 direct descendants. Now that's a math problem. I attached 2 articles to the email I sent you regarding my family, and I just really want to say thank you for a great podcast.
Wow. Thank you, Carrie. 228 direct descendants. That's awesome. Carrie sent me 2 terrific newspaper articles about her family to share with you guys, so I'll post those in the show notes for this episode 53. And I'd love for you to drop me a line and let me know what catches your ear on the show or how you're doing in your research. You can email me at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com or call in like Carrie did and leave me a voicemail message at 925-272-4021.
Profile America, Monday, October 13th. October is definitely the U.S. Navy's month. The service was authorized on this date in 1775 by the Second Continental Congress. One of the nation's most famous warships, the USS Constitution, known as Old Ironsides, was launched in October 1797. This month in 1845, the U.S. Naval Academy was established at Annapolis, Maryland. And on October 30th, 1882, William Halsey was born. His aggressive pursuit of victory in the Pacific Theater in World War II earned him the nickname Bull and the 5-star rank of Fleet Admiral. Today, there are 350,000 men and women in the U.S. Navy, including nearly 51,000 women officers and enlisted personnel. Profile America is in its 12th year as a public service of the U.S. Census Bureau.
Well, I'm here in the exhibit hall at FGS in Philadelphia, and I'm with Yvette Arts, and she's from World Vital Records. Welcome, Yvette.
Thank you, Lisa. It's nice to meet you, and nice to have this opportunity to talk about World Vital Records.
Absolutely. This is our first time covering it on the show, and I know that lots of people are familiar with you, but there may still be some who haven't yet checked out World Vital Records. So maybe you could just start out with a brief introduction about where to find you and what you guys are about.
Great. We've been online for just a little bit less than 2 years, and we have a little over 10,000 databases and about 1.3 billion names. We better say billion with a B. And what's coming up is that we have about 1.5 billion names in our pipeline. So between now and January, we'll be uploading that content. And we're really excited to be in the market. We have a lot of great partners that are familiar with many people, like Anaclan, British Origins, Find My Past, Genealogical Publishing Company, Immigrant Ships Transcribers Guild, and I could go on. And so we are really excited to be in this space, and we're happy to be here at the conference today.
Well, and you've mentioned a lot of really interesting partners who have maybe something that definitely goes beyond the census records. So tell us what kinds of records that they can currently find and maybe what we can look forward to in the future.
Wonderful. What I think that many people would be interested in that they don't know that we have is we have a large Australian collection.
Oh, I have a lot of Australian listeners. This is wonderful.
Good. We just worked with Alan Phillips from Archive CD Books and Gold Genealogy in Australia, and he's been working with many partners down there, and we have a lot of his material up, and we're gaining a lot more of that material. So a large Australian database. We may even break off and we plan on doing an Australia website where people can just access that content. We are amassing a large Canadian collection of newspapers and vital records. We do have a lot more than just vital records. We have a large newspaper selection, and we have another almost a little over 1 billion names coming from newspapers between now and January. Most of it's Canadian and Latin America, with smatterings of U.S., U.K., with Belgium, Netherlands, and some Australian newspapers. We also are putting up some indexes that will point people to material that they may not find anywhere else, but it's in our global search. And so when they look at our global search, they can find those names, and we link to our partners who have that material, and then we just send them to their site.
Fantastic. So you're a great portal for records that you may not have, but you can certainly point them in the right direction.
Want to point them in the right direction. Our CEO is really determined to give greater access to records. Paul Allen, he was one of the co-founders of Ancestry.com and has since left Ancestry and decided to develop another site that would have implementation of social networking tools We're working on those. That will be in our new website, which is coming out in mid-October. And people will be able to see some of those implementations of the social networking tools that we're currently using on Facebook in our We're Related app. Now, that app has a little over 5 million users, and we just barely launched it last October, so in less than a year, we've been able to amass that many users. And we're pretty pleased with that. They use that application for GEDCOM files, for photos, for keeping in contact with family members.
Well, you mentioned Paul Allen, and I know that he blogged not too long ago about Facebook, and probably in terms of We Relate.
He is so excited about Facebook and the applications that can be put on there. So.
Well, I noticed that, I've been on there for over a year, and it was very kind of quiet in genealogy circles, but once Paul got out there with the blog and talked it up, it's exploded. And you know what I've really enjoyed about that is that, because there's been some question about, well, what exactly are we doing out here on Facebook? Yeah. And the We Relate app is a neat way to still pursue the genealogy side of things, but I'm finding that it also is really facilitating just getting to meet people. Like, I'm actually seeing people here at FGS that I've met on Facebook, and it's like, and it really kind of breaks down those barriers. So how is that going to expand on World Vital Records? You said that you might be doing more with that in terms of social networking.
We are. We are going to rename World Vital Records as FamilyLink.com under the FamilyLink umbrella of our different companies. And the reason why we're doing that is Paul's goal is have innovative tools to connect families. The whole reason why he wanted to have the data was to be able for families to be connected. So the tools, the social networking tools, will be helping people do just that. Like you said, you're able to meet people and identify with people that you otherwise wouldn't know because you wouldn't have the tools online to do that. But these social networking tools will allow them to have access to family members or to experts that have information about family members or lines, so there's no duplication of effort in genealogy. So those are some of the reasons why Paul wants to implement that with our data site.
And so does that change your focus? How does that that kind of putting that energy into that side of things, does that change or affect the record side of things?
It affects the record side of things in a great way because it allows people to have greater access to those records and how to use that data. Paul didn't want to have a site that was strictly just data like we have right now because many people don't know how to use that data. But if people can tag that data or annotate that data and say, this is where I found this family line, or if people are searching for, say they're searching for the Cohens or the Smuins or the Bynans or whatever kind of name that may not be so readily available on the web, they can have resources annotated where people can find those resources. So a way to have access to data and use that data to connect families. And so that's the whole reason why we're doing this new implementation.
And is there anything that you feel like stands out that's going to differentiate Family Link when it goes into this social networking? Because there are so many options and there's only so many apps and emails that we can all handle in one day. So what should persuade us to come here and say, I think this is going to be my hub?
I think the value that we bring is that we're bringing aboard so many valued partners. And we bring their resources to us and us to them, where we link to them, and where people will be able to, in one place, be able to find the information that they need. And if they don't find it there, they will know where they need to go. And with our success with our application on Facebook, we know that can be duplicated. And as we add more resources, people will know that that's a place to come to start connecting.
Great. And so as we're looking to the future, you're talking about an October 2008 launch of the new site. It'll be under the Family Link banner. Mm-hmm. Anything else new coming down the pipeline to keep our eyes on? Oh,
yes. We've partnered with FamilySearch.org, where we're working with their Family History Catalog, which is the largest database of material, genealogical material and referencing. And we're putting a lot of Web 2.0 features there where people can add material to it. People can add source authority. People can connect to some of their work that may be in the data, or know where people can find some of this obscure data. So I think that's probably the biggest thing coming that will help genealogists in the field. And when we add those social networking tools to that reference library, it will be the largest reference collection that people will be able to find online and find connections to material that they never would have had access to before.
Wow. And finally, I'm wondering, we're sitting here in the exhibit hall at FGS, people from all over the country as well as the world. And what are you finding are the questions, and what are you finding are the things that are catching their interests about what you guys are doing here?
Well, we find that many of the society memberships are dying out. Not the members are dying out. Well, some of them are passing away, but the interest in the societies is waning.
Yeah.
They're looking for some sort of online component or some way to keep the membership alive, to keep access to the data and be able to still have a steady stream of revenue that allows them to continue their work of publication, continue their work of providing materials. And so many of them are looking to people like us who want to extend the genealogy to the online market and to the social networking system to keep it alive, keep that membership alive, because people no longer, may make it to a library or go to a society and purchase that publication for $10 because they don't know that the thing that they need may be with that society. So I think that part of what we bring to the table is we're helping keep some of this content and membership alive by providing these resources.
So that's exciting. It's not that the internet is going to cause the societies to go away. It's more that the societies have to learn to harness what's available and how to integrate into it.
Yeah. To help them bring value for their members, because that's the whole reason why they exist. They want to help their members, and the members in turn pay revenue to them so they can have these benefits of the society. But a lot of these benefits are no longer benefits to them anymore because they can find those benefits elsewhere. So if we partner with some of these societies, they're able to provide the benefits that people need.
Fantastic. Thank you, Yvette. It was so nice to meet you. I've
Lisa.
seen you on the
Nice
website, and we'll have some links in the show notes for this episode so that listeners can go over and check you guys out. Thanks again.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much to Yvette Arts of World Vital Records for joining me today on the show. Now, here are some strategies for getting the most out of the World Vital Records website from Yvette. For first-time users or for people just browsing, performing a basic search can be a good indicator of the content you'll find on the site. Now, Yvette says that you'll get the largest search results by just searching by last name. Look over the results to narrow down all the possibilities. If you get back thousands of results and you're sure of the first name, enter a first name text. Some combinations of first and last names are more difficult to find exact matches for than others, like John Smith. But Yvette says if you have an unusual name like Jared Quackenbush, the search will only give you back a few results. Now, after trying the basic search, the next step, if you do know the location, is to enter a state in the place search. You'll want to type in the full state name there. Now, there are some results in their databases, such as Google Books, that may not come up via the geographic search. And finally, Yvette suggests that you don't forget to try alternative spellings for a surname. What might look like a misspelling to you may have been the correct spelling to a newspaper editor, so get creative. Be sure and visit the Genealogy Gems episode 53 show notes for more tips on using World Vital Records. And if you do decide to subscribe, I hope you'll do so through the links that you find in the show notes, which helps support this free version of the podcast. Now stay tuned. I've got more gems coming up for you right after this. Looking for a way to get even more genealogy gems that will power boost your research, inspire your creativity, and give you the motivation you need to tackle that brick wall? Become a Genealogy Gems Premium Member and start reaping the benefits right away. And by entering the coupon code SAVE20, you can get 20% off the annual membership. If you enjoy the Genealogy Gems podcast, then you're going to love being a Genealogy Gems Premium Member. But don't just take my word for it. Here's what your fellow Genealogy Gems podcast listeners have to say.
Thanks again for everything that you do and for bringing things into a new perspective.
I'm calling because I wanted to tell you how much I enjoyed episode number 4. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. I learned so much from your podcast and look forward to each new episode.
To become a premium member and start reaping the benefits right away, go to www.genealogygems.tv and click the Join Today button. Be sure and type in the special coupon code SAVE20 and you'll get 20% off the annual membership. Don't drive through your research with the handbrake on. Go full throttle by being a Genealogy Gems Premium Member.
Profile America, Friday, October 24th. It may seem strange, but it really happened. On this day in 1943, the Distinguished Service Medal was awarded to Chips, a half-husky, half-shepherd dog donated to the war effort by his owners in Pleasantville, New York. Chips was part of the 3rd Infantry Division during its landing in Sicily. His citation notes his courageous action in single-handedly eliminating a dangerous machine gun nest and causing surrender of the crew. 4 months later, the medal was rescinded when the War Department issued regulations prohibiting the award of such decorations to animals. Not all dogs may be so brave, but they are all loved by their owners. More than a third of U.S. households have dogs. Many of them own 2. Profile America is in its 12th year as a public service of the U.S. Census Bureau.
I've often said that our personal history is part of world history, and that's why it's so important for us to research our family tree so we can take our place in history. But we have to keep our eyes and our ears open, and that's just what my next guest did. I want to welcome to the show Marianne Whitley, who discovered that her family history was intertwined with the story that you just heard from Profile America about a U.S. war dog named Chips. Welcome to the show, Marianne.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Marianne, I just wanted to invite you on and have you tell us the story of how you discovered the historical connection between your family and Chips, the U.S. war dog.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of a story of a strange coincidence. I'm a copy editor at the Plain Dealer newspaper in Cleveland, Ohio. That means that I edit stories and write headlines. So I was at work one night, and I happened to be editing a story that came over the wires that we were going to use in our Sunday paper in 2006. And it was about war dogs and the U.S. War Dog Association's effort to get medals for the dogs. And as I read the story, there was this paragraph which said, in World War II, a Shepherd Collie mix named Chips was awarded the Silver Star and Purple Heart for attacking an enemy machine gun nest in Sicily, and despite a bullet wound, forced the 6-man crew to surrender. The Army later revoked the awards, calling it demeaning to service members to give medals to animals. Well, when I read that paragraph, it was like something rang a bell, because my dad had a photo album from his time in the Army in World War II, and I was almost certain that there was a photo in the album of a dog named Chips. I mean, I'd looked at the album quite a few times, and for some reason I just remembered that. So also I knew he was with the 3rd Infantry Division. I knew he'd been in Sicily. So when I got home, I looked in the photo album, and sure enough, there was a photo that my dad had taken, and he had labeled under it Chips. And that was how the whole thing got started.
That's pretty amazing. And didn't you say that the story that you first saw over the wire, they didn't have any actual photographs of Chips, did they?
No, they hadn't sent any photos of Chips. They had sent photos of modern war dogs. So, also in the meantime, I looked up, that night I looked up Chips on the web, and I found out that, yes, Chips did serve with the 3rd Division through the war, North Africa, Sicily, Italy, France, Germany, and I knew those were all places where my dad had served. So next day at work, I brought the album in, and I showed it to our national editor, and she said, gosh, we would like to use a photo of Chips because there weren't any photos, historic photos that went with the article. So they scanned my dad's picture into the computer system, and it was used with the story.
Oh, wonderful. Now tell us again your dad's name.
Yeah, Herson L. Whitley, and he was a sergeant, and he died in 1982. He was named for a friend of the family, Frank Herson, so he had kind of an unusual first name. So then when after we ran the story, I contacted Ron Aiello, who's president of the U.S. War Dog Association. I told him the story and offered to share my picture of Chips, and so they put the story and the photo and also some pictures of my dad up on their website.
And that's the uswardogs.org website, and I'll have a link for that in my show notes so that everybody can go and take a look at it. Not only did you have a terrific photo of Chips, the dog, but you also had a photo of Chips with your dad.
Yeah, and that was odd because later I then remembered that I had another envelope full of pictures of my dad's Army photos, and those were ones that weren't in the photo album. I thought, well, I'll look through these and see if I find anything else. Well, I did find another photo. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very good photo because my dad was in it and Chips was in it, but Chips the photographer had cut off his head, so to speak, and just the way he took the picture. But my dad had written on the back of the photo, don't quite know what I'm attempting to do here, probably trying to get Chips to smile. So my dad always had a good sense of humor. So.
He looks like he's having a good time in that picture.
So I guess as it turns out, he not only, had seen Chips, this famous war dog, but probably was serving in pretty close proximity to him.
Yeah, it's amazing. When we do our family history research, we're looking for the people that served with our loved ones, and yet you really had your eyes open. There were more than just people. There were these amazing war dogs.
Yeah, and I had always wondered why that picture was in there. Who was this dog? Why was it there? And I had no clue. And only because the coincidence of me happening to edit this particular story and that they mentioned Chips, I was like, wait a minute. So I think that I have a picture of this dog. Found out exactly, why it was there. I mean, sometimes you just stumble across things, and they're really fortunate coincidences. I had that happen a lot of times when I was doing some of my family research.
It's kind of that genealogy serendipity.
Right.
And I thought it was really great, too, that, it'd be really easy to look in your photo album and see the picture and say, oh, wow, cool, that's there. But you took those extra steps of actually sharing the story, getting in touch with the website, posting it, and you actually had more information come back to you after you posted that original story, didn't you?
Right. I put my email address on there and said that, I'd like to know more if anyone out there, had relatives that served with Chips. I had some other photos in the album. Some were labeled with names, and maybe there would be a relative of somebody who served with my dad. And I haven't quite found that yet, but I did get a couple of people who had emailed me who had connections. Their families had connections to Chips, too. So I later posted a little update, on the website about that.
That's great. And I do encourage all of you listeners to go and check out that U.S. War Dogs website, because not only is Marianne's terrific story about her dad and Chips the dog on there, but some really neat information about her father, Sergeant Herson Lamont Whitley, and his service career. He is serving alongside Patton.
Right.
And the amazing places that he traveled, and there's a wonderful portrait of him there. You must be very, very proud of your dad.
Yeah, I am. And, he was kind of a natural writer, and, this is something that I didn't put on the War Dog site, but he wrote some letters home that the family always said they were published in the Flint Journal in Flint, Michigan, where he lived. I do have copies of those letters, and I'm looking at them right now. He has one here that he wrote from Anzio Beachhead in 1944. And it's quite dramatic, I thought, and he was a great storyteller. I didn't know if you wanted me to just read a little paragraph from that.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, in this letter is dated March 7th, 1944, of course, with the 3rd Infantry Division on Anzio. He says, "What's it like on our beachhead? Frankly, without revealing any secrets, it's quite often like a night in hell. But then there'll come a quiet spell. Dawn breaks and the skies are clear. Then comes the grandest sight of all, waves of big American bombers. From our grandstand seats, we watch the show, horribly beautiful as they fly over us to pound the Jerry's in the rear, where it hurts. Also, those airmen are never wholly real to the men slugging it out with the enemy and the mud on the ground. They're part of another world, so to speak, winged angels or devils, depending on whether they are hitting for you or against you.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I think maybe that's where I get my inclination to be a journalist and a writer and editor.
Exactly, and it was
Irish. He was a natural storyteller, I think.
Well, and it was just that writing talent that he passed on to you that put you in the job that helped you make this whole connection. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, Marianne, thank you so much for sharing his story. And I know that you mentioned that there's a real interesting story about his origins in Belfast. He was an immigrant, and he and his father and his uncles worked on building the Titanic. So maybe we'll have to have you back and learn a little bit more about that story. Maybe you'll do that for us?
Yeah, that would be a pleasure. And, in the meantime, I can send you some information about that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marianne.
Okay, thanks.
In today's Mac Genealogist Minute with Ben Sayer, Ben's going to continue his reviews of genealogy software for the Macintosh computer with a review of iFamily for Leopard.
I've got a really innovative genealogy application to share with you today. It's called iFamily for Leopard. It's different from all the other genealogy applications in that it focuses on the individual instead of the family group. For instance, the first thing that you'll notice that's different about iFamily for Leopard is the main interface. The top of the screen is a context diagram that's sort of a pedigree descendant chart hybrid. It shows the focus person in the middle, and then branching out to the left are all the children or the descendants of that person, and then to the right of that are all the ancestors, all in these little connected boxes. And that interface is actually used to navigate through your family tree as well as display information to you. One of the really neat things about the choice of that for an interface is that I find that when I use that application, I don't need to pull open a descendant chart or a pedigree chart as I do in other applications because it's already there right in front of me. It actually serves as sort of a fan chart as well. So you can see out as many as 6 generations of ancestors using this view. The innovation doesn't stop there. There's some great features in here. The developer, Keith Wilson, has done some serious thinking about how people use genealogy applications and has put things into the program that just make it a snap to use. For instance, he's got this active source feature. You know how when you're entering information off a source, say a birth certificate, there's information about more than just one person on there. And so what Keith Wilson has done in iFamily for Leopard is to streamline our workflow. So when one is going to enter in source information from a document like that, it's simply a matter of entering in the information about that source and then flipping this little active source switch. And what that tells iFamily for Leopard to do is to use that source for all of the information that you put into the database until you flip it back off. It doesn't sound like it's that time-saving, but it is. It really is a neat thing. You've really got to see it in action to appreciate the value. One of the other neat things about it is that it allows you to transcribe images. So when you drop images on a person within iFamily for Leopard, he's got this feature where you can draw a box around sections of that photo, multiple boxes even, and then on the right-hand side you can enter text about it. So you could use this to transcribe the actual text in images. I've got an article on MacGenealogist.com that'll walk you through how to use that to transcribe part of a text on an image. The example I used there was a newspaper, and so I simply typed in what that little newspaper blurb said, but it had the image of the full page of the newspaper. And if you've done this before, you know how hard it is to find just a little tiny article within a whole page. Well, you can just outline it and then link it to the text that you have over on the side, and that makes finding that thing a snap. And also this can be used if you have, say, family photos and you want to outline people's faces on there and put in the names of who they are. So it's really a handy little feature. Another great thing about iFamily for Leopard is the price. It's only $29.95 US. It's among the least expensive of the genealogy database applications for Mac. At $29.95, it's a steal. What I don't like about iFamily for Leopard is the source citation is incomplete in my view. It doesn't allow you to cite sources at a very detailed level. So, for instance, one can put a citation on a whole birth event, but can't cite just the date or just the place. So while one can capture basic levels of sources and citations, it doesn't go far enough in my view. The other thing that's really lacking in this application is its built-in help. There are a lot of features in iFamily for Leopard, and I found that people miss a lot of them because they don't know that they're there. A complete built-in help would alleviate this problem. Come and check out iFamily for Leopard. There's a free trial download on ifamilyforleopard.com. The trial will import complete GEDCOM files. It is limited in its use for 10 days, and you can't export GEDCOMs from it, but all the other features are live.
Okay, Genealogy Gems listeners, do you know what time it is? That's right. It's time to play Name That Tune. You see, I need your help. Several months ago, I got a reel-to-reel tape that was recorded back in the 1960s by my husband's grandfather and grandmother Cook. Bumpa Cook played the violin back in the golden age of silent films, and Nana played the piano and the organ. Well, the other day, I heard one of these songs from this tape being played in the background of a history documentary on television. So it seemed to me that these songs might have been pretty popular long ago. I'm going to play one song on each episode for the next couple of episodes in the hopes that one of you, dear listeners, will recognize the tune and email me with the name. So here's the first song, and I sure hope one of you out there can name that tune. If you think you know the name of that song, please email me at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can call and leave a voicemail on the voicemail line at 925-272-4021. Thanks for your help, everyone, in helping me solve this very personal family mystery. We've come to the close of another episode of the Genealogy Gems podcast. I hope you're enjoying this free podcast. It's a lot of fun for me to bring it to you. You know, with the holidays approaching, there's a wonderful way that you can get your online shopping done while supporting the show. By accessing websites like Amazon.com through the links on the Genealogy Gems homepage and throughout the site, Amazon gives the Genealogy Gems podcast credit for your purchases. It doesn't cost you anything more, but by using the links on our website, you do a lot to keep the free Genealogy Gems podcast coming. Thank you so much for keeping that in mind. And I hope you'll visit the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel, where you can watch lots of great genealogy-themed videos at youtube.com/user/genealogygems, or just do a quick search on Genealogy Gems. As always, there's a lot of ways to contact me. You can email me at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. I love hearing from you guys. Or visit me at Facebook, and I'll have a link for that in the show notes for this episode. And you can catch up on what's going on in the world of genealogy at the Genealogy Gems News Blog at Genealogy Gems Podcast at blogspot.com. So until next time, thanks so much for listening, friend, and I'll talk to you soon.